We're live now.
Been poorly, haven't you? You've been poorly, haven't you, Sharon? No, but my sister has next door. That's right. And it's terminal.
uh, I think we're on, aren't we? Are we?
Yeah, yeah, we'll leave the Phoenix Knights for another night. Yeah, we're back. We're back. Two old men having a rant. No, I think we're obviously on. We've had a bit of a chat tonight, but um, we're just looking at post 16 today, and I think it's been triggered mainly about our youngest son. I mean, obviously, I've worked in the post 16 sector for a very, very long time, and I've never seen it like this, where you can claim full-time education as being 16 hours a week on a level two vocational course. It's yeah, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. And as we just said, when they come in and they start in September, and they're probably finished, and backfilling from mid May onwards, that's 8 months. That's 8 months at 16 hours a week. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
crazy, absolutely crazy.
Just let me
And I
bog
don't,
this.
you kind of, you're then into certainly looking at kind of young people with special educational need who struggle uh, to maintain information, recall information, process information, um, putting that into practice 16 hours a week with very, very little support as well, as we found when Ethan went through Durham Valley College. Very, very little support, very little DLS. I don't know. I mean, obviously you're post 16 as well. You have a post 16 background. Where do you see the land lies at the moment?
It's scary. It's scary. I mean, I think the central issue I have is that it's been dressed up as the consummate the term that I've heard constantly has been in line with their typically developing peers or in line with mainstream peers, whatever. We're trying to bring them in line, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
I first things first, let's not pretend that it's for their benefit. So
yeah,
if you're gonna
absolutely.
cut, yeah, if you're gonna cut, you're gonna reduce, you're gonna take it from 5 days to 3 days. Um, or to 16 hours, however that manifests. Let's at least not pretend you're doing it in the best interests of the children.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
let's
yeah,
have that
yeah.
let's have that common decency to
You
say,
take 16 hours a week. That's kind of stack 'em high and rack 'em in it. So you know what I mean. You can squeeze two cohorts through the door. You know what I mean. That's
yeah,
It's purely financial. That's purely financial.
it is. Everything is financial at the moment. There's no, I don't see any decisions that are being made around send at all that are based on creating better outcomes for children.
No,
They
I
just
agree.
don't
Yeah.
exist. So 10 years ago, we were introduced as families and professionals to potentially the most life-changing legislation, law that would ever been introduced into special educational needs and disability. And here we are 10 years on, and it's just been project failure.
Mm.
Everything you look at, if you've had a child in the system for the last 10 years or within that 10 years, I just don't know anybody who's coming. I don't think I've had anybody come up to me and say, "Oof, we have had a brilliant experience." I've just not had
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And you used to have that.
yeah, yeah.
You used to have that. Now there'll be people come up and say they're at a great school. They'll say that. There's brilliant schools. Some of my kids go to brilliant schools, but most of them aren't borough and most of them are independent.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Which- And, it's just worrying. It's just worrying. And that's the specialist provisions, obviously, that I'm talking about here. Um, but yeah, I had a bit of a situation this week. It was to do with social care. So we were to do with short breaks for my son. And one of the things that Um, I'm not going to go into, I'll go into a bit detail later, but one of the things that I said is I said, look, with the best will in the world, for the best 25 years, the best time of my son's life is going to be from the age of 5 or being born to about 25 if we're lucky. If
Yeah,
Because what that means is at that point, the government, through the code of practice and through the HCP process, etc., at least says it's going to offer something
yes,
to.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So there's going to be a reason, there's going to be an opportunity. That's the perception you have that for the first 25 years of his life, up to 25, that he's going to have probably the best years of his life. And then after that, a lot of it, generally speaking, is being with your parents, maybe some groups, but your parents are getting older.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
fact of life. Your grandparents are getting even older and sadly moving on. And so the first 25 years, it's almost like you want to make the most out of it, particularly with children like my son is concerned, who's never going to be employed. He's never
yeah,
going to be able
yeah,
to
yeah,
run independently. Um, and I just kind of feel as though these children, these young people are going to be forgotten. And what they need is they need 5 days a week, right up to at least 19, 20, 20, 21,
yeah,
because that's their
absolutely.
best, they're their best days.
Mm.
And so I don't know, I feel a little bit uh deflated with it seems that we've got a lot of issues at the moment, James, don't it?
Yeah, well, we've experienced these firsthand. The post 16 offer in Barnsley is poor. I mean, if you take the mandatory requirement just to kind of provide post 16 information, advice, and guidance to young people, certainly young people with SEND. We know people, and we've experienced it ourselves, where the kind of that deadline passes very quickly after 16. You don't see anybody. We were, I don't know if it's not part of our EHN, I don't know if it's just, we say we're fortunate. I think we might be fortunate because even with tag workers now seem to be becoming like a scarce commodity for the amount of work what they do. But when you've got a tag worker sat in a living room with a social worker with an 18-year-old young disabled lad, and they're asking him, "Are you going to sign on?" You know what I
Mm,
mean? What hope have we got? You know what I mean? Right, completely written him off. RE8CP well over deadline, absolutely massively over deadline, and we've had to go out there and fight his way through the system to get him to where he needs to be now. Is You know what I mean? He's getting into a college now where he wants to go. He's going to try and open the doors up to him socially, but we've had to fight that. We've had to fight for that without any support, and we know the system. You know what I mean? We
yeah,
work in the system and we know the system. So those who don't know how to navigate that system, it must be shocking. I mean, what the opportunities around Barnsley when you look at it for these like 16-year-old plus for employment or apprenticeships, they've gone. There's no industries anymore. We're too busy about kind of spending money and fluffing up the high street as opposed to trying to pour money into giving these young people apprenticeships or getting them into the old traditional kind of craft skills, plumbing, carpentry, whatever it might be. They've gone. They've
yeah.
gone. Absolutely gone. Secondary school settings, metalworking workshops, woodworking workshops have gone. Um, yeah, we just seem to be. I think we're coming to a point now where we're creating the perfect storm for a rising youth crime, a rising youth mental health. And we talk about this all the time, young people in with sending the youth justice system, but we seem to be creating this perfect storm. Even if you're at college, 16 hours a week, you know what I mean? 2.5 to 3 days a week. What do you do for the other 2 days? As a send child, as a parent of a send child, what do you do for them 2 days? Hey, do you pack work in? What do you do?
Well, it's funny because I'm obviously while I talk, it's more like a podcast in terms of, and I've just been on local off, and it says here, welcome to our new search tool, the innovative. So I've gone on local off. The
Yeah,
innovative feature is designed to help you find the information you need quickly and efficiently. Currently in beta testing, the tool is still under development. It's always everything's always under development. Basically, AI searching. So I've just gone into the box and put post 16, click searched. Error, unexpected token Y, your mention, this is not valid. So, so um, if ever there were a metaphor for where we're at, I find that just while we're on this with the local offer, it's like people seem to think that this being set, people are saying that it's doing well, and it, it's not a good local offer. It don't make sense, and it's not easy to navigate. And I don't know. I find it really uncomfortable personally. So let's try and get what we've got for post 16 because let's just look at this with the local offer. Let's look at what that actually means in terms of there's a
yeah,
when the code of practice came into the fore, they said that there should be an all singing, all dancing website. Okay, it's called the local offer. And what it does is it gives you what the offer for send is locally. So
yeah,
it's a bit confusing in a sense because we should be saying what's the local offer like in Barnsley, which is what's available to our children. But people then start to think, you mean what's the website like? Because they've called it the local offer, which were a bit silly from government, in my opinion. But when you say what is the local offer in Barnsley, what we're increasingly seeing is that it's poor. It's
yeah,
so the
yeah, yeah,
actual
yeah,
offer,
yeah,
the offerings to our children and our young people is really poor. And one of the things that I've been trying to get across is we've we've had 10 years of the code of practice where one of the biggest emphases was on joint commissioning and
yeah,
parental involvement of commissioning. And I can honestly say no one has ever approached me and said, not that I should be the person, but just me who's been in and around it. I've never seen anybody say, we want to commission some services. Can we get down and do some co-production on on
yeah,
on how we might commission and what we might commission and who to and when? And so what happens is you get this local offer, the things that are on offer, that in the most part are just interpretations of professionals.
mm,
They're just people who are saying, "Oh, what do you do? Oh, we do this." There's no voice there. There's no strategic parent
yeah,
voice
yeah,
that says,
yeah,
"We need this," and this is where we like. There's been little pockets, but it's just not there. So I think the relationship with the actual local offer website with parents in Barnsley is so poor because they've had no involvement in the strategic planning of what is offered in Barnsley. It's like you've got to go with your begging bowl and say what you got. And it's
yeah,
like, well,
yeah, yeah,
we should know. We should have helped. There should be a cohort of parents who can feed back to other parents and explain what we've created and what we're going to create and what you're welcome to help us create. It's that culture of doing to rather than with that's it runs like a coal seam through everything that is sending
absolutely.
from.
Yeah,
So from my point of view, when I go to the local offer or when I hear, so look at what's on offer, and a really good example is yesterday we had a meeting about what's on offer for short breaks, and as we said, oh, basically we're like four or five things, and then what we got told is, oh, you can have a personal budget. So okay, yeah, okay, that's personal budget, and that's really good, and that's this, and I thought, well, yeah, it's really good. But when you start looking at personal budget, James, one of the first things that you're kind of doing is you're isolating your child from their peers. Because if you do a personal budget situation, it's a specific activity for your child in probably a non-disability based environment.
yeah, 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 absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I might get a personal budget so I can take my son, I don't know, to to a, I don't know, an activity place that he likes doing, but he's not going to be with other children who are of his educational understanding. So personal budgets can sound really good, but they can also be very restrictive.
Yeah.
And we just don't have a good offer. There's like a stride set thing up at Greenacre that's absolutely jam-packed waiting time. The and that's only for specific type of children with disabilities, which is absolutely fine and no problem there. Then there's some at Stride in Wakefield you can't get in because it's that full. There's some up at Scout Die that's full, or bit of a waiting list. There's Reds in the community, which is certainly not for everybody. And other than that, there's not much else.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up is because when they talked about reducing the 3 day week to 3 day week, what what the local authority said is that we weren't going to feel it. And the reason we weren't going to feel it is because they were going to make a 5 day offer. Are you
Yeah.
aware of that? Have you heard
No,
anything
but go on.
about that?
Enlighten me.
So the idea was we're going to reduce your kids' time down to 3 educational days a week.
Yeah.
And some of the meetings that we sat in as the parent carer forum were people and professionals saying they don't need an education on all of them days. Some of the things that they're doing in them educational establishments are not education. So just park that for now. And what they said is that they're going to reduce the educational spending, and it was stated, quoted, and written that health and social care would pick up the slack.
Right.
So
Right.
what we should be seeing right now, because we're entering into our second year of 3 day weeks for post 16 children, um, is we should be seeing a big offer, or the opportunity for social care to be putting events on for families,
Yeah.
and for health to be putting events on for families.
Right. Cool.
We're not seeing that.
We're back to fluffy unicorn land again, aren't we?
Mm.
The utopia of let's work 3 days a week. Let's cut our working week down. 2 days for the family. Brilliant. Amazing. We're doing all our town centre up. So you can have a walk around there with your kids. It's absolutely lovely. Come and sit in the waterfalls and play on the AstroTurf. You know what I mean? And we'll put a local offer together. I think what having worked in that sector as well and knowing the programs that are out there, when we start looking at this kind of inclusivity, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, it almost seems like we've got Barnsley. It's kind of like let's not look and see what we need to develop, which is on a needs base, but let's have a look and see what we've already got resource wise. Yeah, and let's see how we can shoehorn something to fit into that. Reds in the community is a perfect example of that, and Sheffield Wednesday disability and any kind of football groups and grassroots football, absolutely love it to pieces. But the majority of young people we work with who've got send when it comes to playing sports don't want to play team sports.
Mm.
They don't want to play football. They don't want to play rugby. They feel awkward. You know what I mean? Certainly as they get older and a little bit more conscious, that's the last thing they want to do is kick a football around and be made to look stupid on a football pitch. So the number of lots limited that can go through that community program. They're football orientated kids what go through that. We look at some of the other things, and even on the commission on services, you look at BESS, which is the new one what's being bandied around. Do you know what I mean? Behaviour, emotional support. Yeah. Where do they go? Into that brand new empty library in town and go and sit down there with a TA or a librarian for an hour a day for 3 days a week. That's not social communication interaction like they are building it up to do though. Trying to build the resilience that's because they've got a nice shiny brand new library that's empty.
Mm.
Are you with me? So it's kind of let's see where we can shoehorn some of these services. Let's actually not just listen to parents and see what they're wanting, but what we'll do is we've got a metrodome where we've got a big room. You know what I mean? We'll put an event on there once. You know what I mean? Over summer holidays or 6 week holidays, and let's just make it fit where we
Yeah.
don't have to spend money. Well, we don't have to spend money to develop anything, which could have a massive impact. Let's just shoehorn into these different areas, and we'll put that in the local offer and make it all sound beautiful and amazing
Well,
and wonderful.
let's create footfall where we have spent money.
Yeah,
That's one of the big things that I see all the time is that let's,
yeah,
you know, one of the first ideas that I had, and I know I had it, and I know I put it up, and I said it in one of the first meetings. I said, look, why haven't you got a sense specific unit, somewhere like a hub where you can go and talk in town centre? I said, if you're going to promote it, make it autism friendly, really go to town on it, make it not just autism, but disability friendly, but really look at how your town centre, a town centre for the future and all this kind of stuff. No
yeah,
one listened. No one listened. But I said, oh, why not have a hub? Why not have something like that? And then the family hub opened up. There's no one going in it. You can see no one's going in it because it's not being part. If you're part of creating something, if your
yeah, yeah,
family's part
yeah,
of creating something, right? It's okay to have an idea and it's okay to market it, but if you don't feel as though you belong to it, you don't go to it. You don't. It's not your place. When it feels like it's your place, it feels like it's your manor, your area, your environment. When you've had a part in the creation of it.
yeah, yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
the strength, that's the strength of Barnsley. That is what Barnsley is, and that's why the outlying towns and villages were always what made up the borough and what made the borough strong is because it were identity. You had identity, and we really they think that the identity is a Kes statue and something else and a few iconic Dicky birds. They're all important things to our heritage, but they're so generalistic as far as bands are concerned. People, you think about such as like Darren Goff. He's a
Yeah, yeah,
Montbretton lad. He's not just a Barnsley lad, he's a Montbretton lad.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
means
yeah, yeah,
summer, that means summer. And I think we are disability services. It's no different. We are SEND services. It's no different. And people used to be able to be part of the community because we had communities. Our disabled children, our SEND children, our, who were doing things and going out in days and going and accessing shops and going for a pint even on Friday afternoon. Some disabled adults would do. It were in their community, and
yeah,
we're losing
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
We're losing that, and everything seems focused on let's get some footfall in there because it's like here. So I'm reading here. What is a 5 day offer? The 5 day offer. This is what you expect. You can expect this in Barnsley. This is what you're allowed. This is what has been on offer. It's for people 18 and older. I'm not sure why that is. With SEND who are finishing full-time school. That don't make sense, that sentence, because it's at 16 you finished full-time school.
Mm,
Yeah, you finish school at 16, and then you have the option of going into education, employment, or training. That's what, yeah.
yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
So that don't make sense to me, so I'm not sure what that means. As you move from secondary school to college or sixth form, your weekday routine may change. So the 5 day offer should they should be saying that the 5 day offer is for people from 16 onwards, not for people 18, but it says for people 18 and older.
Right.
So it's not accurate this. Your weekday routine may change and you'll have more time for hobbies, exercise, part-time work, volunteering, or hanging out with friends.
Mm, yeah,
You might have about 16 to 17 hours of education over 3 days each week, giving you lots of time to try other things.
mm,
Find out below how to create your own 5 day offer. And there's step one, have a chat with your tutor or TAG advisor and build up a typical week taking your
if you can
college
get
time.
hold of one, yeah. If you can get hold of a tag advisor, yes,
Yeah.
you can have a chat with them.
Uh, and your college timetable as a starting point. Then think about what else you would like to do. Add some activities. College and work, friendships and relationships, making time to spend with your friends or going to a group to meet new people. Volunteering, health and wellness, try
See, that one's
sport.
quids in, really, isn't it? If you think about it. If you look at the kind of rising mental health problems in schools, and we're saying go and spend time with your majority of SEND children now have got SEMH, they don't want to hang out with their friends. They stay in the bedroom. They're becoming more and more isolated, and
The
they know
presumption
this.
is, the presumption is that they
So
have.
who they're hanging out
Well,
with? For them to, you know what I mean? You take out. He's glad to hang around with his mum and dad. You know what I mean? That's an 18-year-old lad hanging around with his mum and dad. It's not healthy. Not healthy.
yeah, well, it's not typical, is it? It's not
No,
something that typically happens, and
but
but
they're
it
accepting that though, Jonathan. They're accepting that. So when you look at some of these cases, what we're working on, certainly when we look at our case, and you're going to social care and you're saying, my child is isolating themselves in the bedroom, what you get back nowadays, well, they do that, don't they? Because they're playing on computer games. The world's changed. But that in the second breath on the 5 day local offer, you mean, oh, you can go and hang out with your friends socially. We're giving you 2 days extra to go and hang with your friends. And let's not forget, within that 16 hours during that post 16, we're also doing social, emotional, and PHSE. And you know what I mean? So, how much academic work and vocational work are you doing within them 16 hours?
very little.
I mean, what's that doing? How's that setting our young people up to be able to go forward in the world, are you with me, and secure themselves decent jobs,
So
decent, well paid jobs?
yeah, it goes on to say you don't have to do activities across all 5 days. You could put together a timetable for 4 days, as the 5 day offer can be up to 5 days. It's getting really, really understanding this is so it's really simple to understand. It's good if the activities, volunteering, or job you choose have something in common with what you're studying. For example, if you're studying catering, you could look for a part-time job in a cafe.
Right.
Okay, getting support for your 5 day plan, a helping hand. You might be able to sort, I don't know why I'm laughing, it's not made me laugh. You might be able to sort out your 5 day offer by yourself. Sort out. Who's wrote this? But, comma, here's some things you might want to think about! Exclamation mark. I don't know why we've got to shout it. Ask your parents or carers for help because
Right.
they've got plenty of time on their hands.
Well, of course we have.
If you if you know where you would like, if
Yeah,
you know
loads of time.
if you know where you would like to go or what activity you want to try, but don't know how to start, your family and friends might be able to help you. Join a group or an activity club. You can find out about local SEN groups and clubs here on the local offer website. But there's one at Ozone. Anything after that? The providers of these services would be happy to. Oh, there's some at that cafe. You come out smelling the chips, I think. Ad
All
Astra.
right.
The providers of these services would be happy to let you know how you can join in or help you to apply to access them. Thinking about getting a personal assistant, James? A
Yeah.
personal assistant, PA, is someone employed by the family or young disabled person to help with day-to-day living.
That's if you
You
can
know,
actually get a referral.
you know
That's if
all
you can
this.
get a referral through to Children's Disability Team, then you might be able to talk about it briefly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
the
we've got a
fruit.
5 day offer, but actually trying to access any of this stuff is absolutely, you know what I mean? You won't be able to sit down and speak to anybody to get started in the first place. It's a joke, and I think the way just by that there is, so they've badged this up as what we're going to do is we're going to take away from you potentially 2 days from that
Mm.
college experience, right? What we're then going to do is we're then going to push it back and make it, and we're going to package this all up this extra 2 days where mum and dad, if it wasn't actually kind of packaged up like this, mum and dad would be running around for you anyway, trying to find you volunteering jobs and positions to try and keep you busy. But what we'll do is we'll make it sound like it's our idea. You know what I mean? We'll take these 2 days where your mum and dad's running around, or your parents and your carers are running around like absolute idiots trying to sort stuff out for you to keep you busy and keep you occupied. But we'll make it our idea. What we'll do is we'll badge that then and say them 2 days, that's part of our 5 day local offer. You know what I mean? Brilliant,
You,
absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean?
what this this feels like that comedian, that comedian. I can't remember. He said. He says, I realised the other day why I'm so knackered. He says, I ain't got one job anymore. He says, I've got about seven. He says, I go to my job and do my job and work there. He
Yeah,
says,
yeah,
but
yeah,
then I call it a supermarket and I do all packing
yeah,
tills. And then I go
yeah.
to petrol station. I feel, and I have to do all that. I can't rely on someone to just give 'em money. I've got to go through a machine. And he says, everywhere I go, I'm doing some bugger else's job.
Ah,
And it was a bit funny, well, much funnier than what I can get because but
I
all
hope
I
it was.
see here is what is that clearly?
So I hope it was.
Yeah.
You've just
Yeah,
killed that joke dead, then.
he's
Yeah.
not working anymore. So but no, but all I see with this is that it's like here you go. But there is no package. There's no database. So there's a history to this that I'm aware of. And when we were the parent carer forum, we agreed to go into something to discuss this because the cabinet were pushing forward with it. There wasn't anybody putting up for a judicial review at that time to stop it happening, and it were happening in other areas. But one of the things that we said at the time was, what we said is, look, we'll get involved on a outer level, but what we'll do is we're not signing off on this work. We didn't sign off on any of the work, and we
Mm,
wouldn't because first and foremost, there was another parent in there who wasn't governance at all. From the Down syndrome group, he just turned up and he could do and say whatever he wanted, and he basically spoke about his own child most of the sessions. And we were all there trying to contact and discuss everything about everybody else, about the whole wider society of Barnsley. And we were saying, well, you can't do that. And you've got to think about this factor and this factor and this factor. And all they kept saying was, and I said, well, you need social care and you need health it's an EHCP plan. And Tracy and Lisa and Sophia, they were like saying, we need to bring these people in and these. And so what happened is this, it turned into a steering group situation where it were developing, and we were actually looking at how you might create a plan. If they're going to go ahead with it, how is it that the social care and health who are part of this code of
yeah.
practice process, how are they going to pick up the slack? Because I can look at it from my perspective as a father with a child that I have, is that as he gets older, the things that he likes to do wouldn't necessarily need an educational establishment to do it with him. Do you
Yeah,
get what I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I would open for that conversation, but I would never dream of saying that that's okay to do without consultation.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what's
absolutely.
happened, you see. And what happened, you see, is we got a new head of send, and then all them, not long after, not saying it's that person, but not long after we got a new head of send, all the steering group meetings were cancelled. They got rid of us, and it's all here now. But there's no package. There's no package.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nothing.
It feels, you know what it feels like to me? Our local offer, 5 day local offer, is a bit like Tesco self service. Are you
Mm,
with me? We can walk out with a Tesco carrier bag and we'll brand it as if but you've gone and done you've took it off the shelves and you've actually run it through tills. You know what I mean? You've
yeah,
saved us like staff costs. Thanks very
yeah,
much. You know what I mean? So you can do all this. You can run around for the 2 days. You know what I mean? You can get there'll be nobody coming out and actually saying to you, well, you want to do so TIAG. I know TIAG now very, very well. You know what I mean? Disappeared. Our TIAG work has disappeared totally. And that's coming across now from loads of parents. You know what I mean? That input from TIAG gone.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely gone. So
Has
if
it
you want to
gone?
do that, yeah, gone. There's no input at all, just vanished, like blown into midair. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to get yourself involved in volunteering or working, yeah. There's only one person or one group of people that's going to sort that out for your send child, and that's you. Yeah. But these have got the nerve to badge it up to make it sound like, you know what I mean? It's a good thing and we'll give you all this and access to this and get this done for you. You know what I mean? So you can have 3 days doing your college course and whatever, then you get 2 days going out and oh, that's all down to us. It's not down to them at all. So that's smoke and mirrors to me. Um, and you're right as well. I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times, social care health. Where's their input? Are you with me? And I'll tell you where their input is. There is no input. Yeah, there is no input and it's not being listened to. Social care, we might as well should we just rebrand social care in Barnsley and call it the extended child protection team. They're not social care anymore. You know what I mean? They've gone way past social care. You know what I mean? There's no social and there's no care. They don't care. It should be social, don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They
Well, it's
don't care. They're
interesting
not
because
bothered.
I maybe I've taken my finger off the pulse, but I found out yesterday in a meeting about my own son that the short breaks team is its own team now. It's been completely separated from the DCT, the disabled children's team. So they're not even connected.
Mm,
I ain't seen an announcement. I ain't seen that anywhere on the local
no.
offer. I follow things. I've not seen out written or put out there. So basically, what it's saying is that there don't feel like there's any. It used to be that your short breaks were like all connected to
Mm.
connecting with families and then bridging over to if something went wrong or something changed or
Yeah, yeah.
something, and it went that way. And now apparently it's just a completely separate department.
Which is
And
interesting because we work with VHA workers, and for the last, unless it's happened just recently, they're still stating you've got to get a referral through to Children's Disability Team to access short breaks.
yeah.
So that lack of understanding and knowledge is gone. Is not being shared.
I was shocked. I was shocked because I just thought to myself, well, surely to goodness, there should be a connection with that. There's a reason why a child's having short breaks. There's a reason why a child needs respite. There's a reason why a family needs respite. And it's not, it can be not a very long period until that family needs a full Section 17, a welfare report.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
can escalate. I understand because before you used to have a Section 17 to be able to get short breaks. And I understand that in the case. But I'm a bit uncomfortable with that sort of lack of connection between DCT and short breaks team as it is
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Because it just feels transactional now with short breaks, whereas it used to be a service. And what happened, just while I'm on it, from our perspective yesterday, my ex-wife and I and our son, is they've just decided that they want to just completely cut his PA hours, and that's it. And so we haven't been able to use them because really sadly we're in a very difficult situation with his PA, and I'm not going to go into that. It's not.
Yeah, yeah.
She's a beautiful, beautiful human being, and it's just so heartbreakingly sad. And there's just no appreciation for that whatsoever. And
Mm.
we we got told yesterday we were going for a review. So we went to Ireland Medical Centre, library, what have you. Met with a member of staff, got told we were going for a review. I'd looked down after a while and what's been slid across to me is referral paperwork. I was like, what we doing referral paperwork for? Oh, you've got to re-refer. I says, no, we haven't. I says, it's got a package. Now it's the powers that be have said you've got this package, but things have changed in his life and in your lives, uh, and you got to re-refer through front door services, and it'll all go to panel. I said, what? So my son's got so many hours with a PA allotted to him, and what they're saying is they've found enough evidence to say that he don't need it anymore.
Mm.
They haven't come to us and spoke to us about it.
Yeah,
They,
yeah,
they've
yeah.
they've
They've not
basically.
actually done any proper review and gained any proper evidence. Oh no, no, no.
And what I heard yesterday, this is what were told to me directly yesterday. Directly, I said, why haven't you brought the review paperwork? Why have you brought the referral paperwork? And I quote, we don't have review paperwork. And I said, well, what do you do with how do you do a review? We write it down and then we put it on the system. I said, so let's do that. No, it's got to be a referral now. It's been determined that um, you've got to go back through process of referrals to get what you've already got. So me being me is I said, well, when is it that you come in for his education? If you can just take his social care away from him,
Yeah,
when are you coming to take his edu I didn't understand the concept of it, which is fair enough. I'm not naming the person. I would never do that. But people are wearing the badges, James. They're representing the
yeah.
council, and we were brought
Well,
there on.
do you know when that's quite a poignant question. And I'm not going to go into too many details, but I'll give you a quick overview. When are you coming for my child's education? Um, Post 16, we're working on a case at the moment where a young man, post 16, I'm not going to give the exact age, but post 16 has been in a residential setting now, um, for education purposes and for social care and for safeguarding reasons for 2 years. He's entering into his final year of his GCSEs. Yeah. Promised last year by Mel Dyson, yeah, that they would not be pulling this young man out of this setting because it was working extremely well for him. It was meeting his needs. They were happy with the outcomes and he was thriving. Yeah. And over the last 12 months, they have put this family through hell because when the HCP review came through, guess what they did? Pulled the provision and said you're going to go to Barnsley College.
Yeah, just to correct for a minute,
Totally. Yeah.
just to make a small correction, the EHCP manager. I think that's what well things called. Yeah, the EHC manager. Sorry for that. We didn't mean to say the person's name. It's. I think it's probably just for the best.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, the EHCP manager, and so then it was pulled.
Pulled, absolutely pulled. So they've been now fighting now for um God, we've been involved with them now for probably about 5 months now. Yeah, having to go to tribunal. Young man's due to go back to should be starting back in his final year of his education in September. He's now having to go to tribunal to fight, even though we've gone round with parents, yeah, and we've contacted all the providers that have been gone for the consultation, all of which have said we can't meet this young man's needs. Way too complex. Way too complex for us. Even Barnsley College, way too complex. We can't meet needs. Yeah. Only place that can meet needs is where he is at the moment. And they've still not granted a decision to let him stay where he is.
You see that for me, like it's how far are we going to fall? How
Yeah.
far are we going to fall? And you're starting to hear stories now. And like I say, from my viewpoint, it's like I've never really cared who is the person that's doing the job. The job is people make the choice to do the job. It's like a politician. It's like any job you do. You make the choice to do it, and you take the rough with the smooth. I don't give a monkeys. There's hundreds of people come through, probably 60 or 70 people come through and done jobs where I've crossed paths with them, and I've thought to myself, where you've behaved or what you've done in that job is not ideal. It's not what I would do. Then they leave, and that's it. It's not a personal thing. It's their professional behavior in that profession. And like so, when I look at this thing here with the 5 day offer, whoever's in that position, then they're wearing the lanyard. I don't care about them personally. I don't.
No. No,
I've
no,
got no
no,
interest. I could name you all the last five heads of send, and every one of them, I've thought to myself, I've had a problem with that. But if I saw him in the street, I was like, hey, all right. So it's not this is a culture that is the lanyard. It's the purple lanyard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the toxicity that comes with it that I just don't get. How can you treat someone like that?
No, you can't. It's
How
impossible.
can you?
Yes.
As
Yeah.
in, as an organization, how is it that no one's turning around saying, "Hang on a minute,
Yeah, but
we can't."
as an individual as well, how can you sit there? You know what I mean? Getting into that line of work where it's education, health, or social care, where you're getting involved there to potentially, well, I'm gonna say change lives, but they are changing lives. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? In a way, they are doing what they've got into the job to do, but it's the wrong
Yeah,
way around doing it. Yeah. Um, yeah. How can you do it? How can you sit there knowing very well? I mean, we've seen decisions recently when it's come through mediation. That case specifically, where it was agreed in mediation to do certain actions, and then they've just not done them. Completely done the opposite. You know what I mean? Having to force that family to go to tribunal, knowing very well that they forced them to go to tribunal, by the way, because they know it's going to take them 12 months.
yeah,
So that's 12 months without having to worry about and deal with the problem. 12 months about not spending that additional money or whatever it might be, what they might, and that's purely and simply what it's down to do.
yeah.
Yeah, it don't matter what these EHC coordinators are saying. It doesn't matter what these line managers are saying. That's what they're doing. Yeah, what kind of a person can sit there and do that? You know what I mean? Where's your moral compass gone?
Well, like I say, from an individual point of view, you live and you live by your decisions, and and if you people find a way that we hear it all up and down. People saying, the parents don't understand. This is a crisis. It's a national crisis. Is a, there's a, it's not.
No.
I repeat it, and I will repeat it again and again and again. If you believe that all the problems in Barnsley Send system is because of a national problem, a national crisis, then you're either a liar or a fool.
Mm,
It's just not the case.
yeah.
Because let me tell you, as I posted the other day, quite simply, why the hell would Ofsted have a three result based inspection framework? If it were a national crisis, why do Ofsted even go around doing local area inspections,
Mm,
LAIs? You won't bother, James. You
no.
won't bother
No.
doing it because there's
Yeah.
no
And
answer, is
let's move away from this as well. I want to move away from. I'm going to draw a line underneath. In fact, I'm going to draw a line in the sand, and if anybody wants to challenge me on this, they can do. They're going about a national SEN crisis, and this SEN crisis in Barnsley is because of national funding issues, whatever it might be. They were saying the same thing. It was down to the Tories. The Tories have absolutely ruined the system. Yeah, we are a devolved. I keep saying this. We are a devolved council. Yeah, we have been a Labour council for the last 50 years. And the majority, most of that cabinet, you know what I mean, have been hanging around for quite a bit of time within that 50-year period. This is not a national crisis. This is purely and simply mismanagement, putting vanity projects before people. Do you
it?
know what I mean? We don't need concrete mushrooms in the middle of town centre.
Mm.
You know what I mean? What do we need them for? We don't need murals painted on the side of town halls to make them look better. You know what I mean? Or better still, what we'll do is we'll take the traditional markets, what used to be in these towns, yeah, and we'll totally demolish them and strip them down, and then we'll put in a little kind of section where you can maybe have 5 or 6 or 10 stalls. You know what I mean? We'll get rid of all the market traders, stuff them. You know what I mean? If they want to, they can come and work. They can come into Glassworks. Where, by the way, there's loads of units available. It's going to cost you a fortune in rent. We'll go around. We'll paint nice murals. Yeah, because some MP or some councillor seems to know some famous artist. Yeah, Penniston will run off and we'll spend £80,000 on granite sheep. You know what I mean? And plaster them.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Put £80,000 worth of granite sheep around, and we've got one now down at the entrance to the train station, which is nearly covered in overgrown brambles and stinging nettles. You know what I mean? Because it's a tourist attraction, that, trying
Yeah.
to find trying to find the sheep in the brambles. You know what I mean? It's a game everybody plays when they come off a train at Penny. You know what I mean? Let's just keep doing that. We'll build some concrete mushrooms, and you know what I mean. We'll build a bridge that doesn't work. You know what I mean? But hey, do you know what? All you disabled people, you've got a 5-day local offer. All you send kids in Barnsley, 5-day local offer. You know what I mean? Although
It's,
we're not doing anything, but we'll take credit for it.
oh, it's proper mint. I tell you.
You left at your own. You know what I mean? You're left to do things by yourself. And unfortunately, the support is not there, and it's never going to be there unless there's some massive change in Barnsley. Ever going to be there? That support is not there. If you don't know how to navigate this world, yeah, and you don't know the ins and the outs, and you don't know how to kind of knock on people's doors. Bearing in mind, you've got to bear in most SEN parents, and we had this conversation the other day, have some form of SEN themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they
let
have
me
some.
know.
They've gone well. Yeah, well, they've gone through the mill. You know what I mean? They might have social, emotional, and mental health problems. You know what I mean? They've got anxiety. They've got depression. They've got. You know what I mean? And they're going to do with this battle. You know what I mean? It's an ongoing fight. Are you with me?
Yeah.
But then you're expecting them people to go out and knock on a corporate door somewhere, a business door, and go, "Will you give my little Johnny an apprenticeship, please, or 2 days a week, part time or volunteer work?"
Yeah. I
It's not
think
going to happen. It's false, false,
it's
absolute falsehoods.
it all feels for me with the sense system, which is my the Barnsley sense system is probably my mastermind specialist subject, and followed it, look at it, and it just feels like one of those sort of like scenes on a pantomime, where it's like it's just a board, they're just boards, and your audience in front of it,
Yeah,
which is who are just taking it in superficially. They're not looking at all the work that's needed and the context and anything like that. The audience that are just looking at it and never going and experiencing it, it's like, oh, it's really good that, yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah, Chili
yeah,
Pepper
yeah,
have done
yeah,
that and
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah,
And, oh, have you seen that video? And have you seen
yeah.
marketing? And have you seen thing? And local offer 258
Mm,
people. Well, what good is it? It's like having sold. We've had 53 stalls and we've had 258 people through the door. Yeah, but yeah, there's no there. It's like a farting wind. There's no there. There's no provision. The services in Barnsley are so far behind other local areas. That's all our families tell us. You step
yeah,
out and you go. Some of our parents get referred to Sheffield, they get referred to Wave for various different things. And everybody says you're just so far behind. And when you think about that, there's no funding goes into it, and the only funding that goes into it is when it's in crisis. So what happens is it's in crisis. The funding that goes into it, the culture of funding that goes into services, is to save the people at the top, not to support the people who
yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's what you're
yeah.
seeing time and time and time again. Bernardo's had no money. Bernardo's had no money off local authority. They were lottery funded completely, give or take, independent. Did a brilliant service, generally speaking, for families, peer support. About 18 months ago, local authority come in, ICB, gave them money to increase the things and that. And it's just all falling apart. You can see it falling apart
Mm,
because now they're in the pocket. That's how I see it. You're in the pocket. You've lost your
mm,
independence. You've lost your independence and you're becoming homogenized. You're just becoming another thing that you either chuck money at or you don't chuck money at. And there's nothing wrong with having these opinions because you see it. But I do think that there's just no meat on the bone. There's nothing. Everything is triage, triage, triage. I do not know what there is. I don't see what there
uh,
is other than sadness, other than parents absolutely desperate, fighting over the scraps, fighting over the scraps. And it breaks my heart. Absolutely
mm.
breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And if you take away, if these people in national government, supported by our four MPs or our three proper MPs, if they support these changes, they will destroy another generation of kids.
Oh yeah.
They will destroy another
Oh, it'll
generation.
go on. It'll go on. It's just going to be never ending. It's going to be never ending.
How
We're
can you be
seeing.
in a situation, James, where the leader of the council is lobbying the government to remove parental rights in Send? That's what's there. The that our leader or our council sits in meetings, actively involved with another X amount of other councils in lobbying the government to reduce parental rights and increase the opportunities for councils to have more power and more decision making. And the only thing that parents have is when it gets to squeaky bum time, when someone's actually found their way, navigated through the shitstorm, the maze that they have to go through, and they get to tribunal. Our parents have only really truly ever had one threat, for want of a better word, and that is, I'll take you to mediation, and if you screw back with me on mediation, I'll take you to a tribunal. You
Yeah,
take
yeah.
that away, you take that away, and the fact that 97% recent numbers found in favor of parents, what that tells you is all the crap that's preceded that decision making that's gone
Mm.
97% in our favor is just pain and suffering for no reason.
We had this conversation the other day, and I'm in absolute um. Well, I mean, if you want to come at me with another cease and desist letter, far away. But I mean, my brain is absolutely reassured of the fact, and I'm absolutely positive that our EHC team is in crisis.
Mm.
Absolutely, they've got to be in crisis. I've been receiving emails and all sorts, but what's going off at the minute with some of these EHC mediation decisions, some of these panel decisions, forcing parents to go to tribunal, but then when it actually gets to tribunal, yeah, they can't even be bothered to put a bundle. They can't even be bothered to put a legal challenge in and defend the stance. You know what I mean? And we know we're being barred. We know the local authorities
How
are
many
being
have you
barred.
seen? I've seen
Yeah,
loads.
yeah, loads, absolutely stacks, absolutely stacks. You know what I mean? Where they can't even defend the local authority can't, or they're that arrogant, knowing very well that the next stage from that is you're then going to have to go and try and find a solicitor, whatever you might do to try and go down the court process. Are you with me? That they're that arrogant that they're prepared to take a legal ruling on the fact to say that you've not done anything, you've not done what you should do. You know what I mean?
But what they
A,
don't
a
realise
game of
is,
numbers, a game of numbers, depriving families and young people of support, and they're playing a game. They're gambling. They're literally gambling.
but what they don't
But yet
realise,
you've
what they don't realise is where that tribunal system's concerned, whether it's going to be gotten rid of or not, there's whatever. Barnsley's reputation is in the gutter. I know that. I know that
yeah, yeah, I
if you're
agree.
missing tribunal orders consistently, less than 2 years ago, right, it were unheard of. Like it were unheard of. It were a shock. If it come out amongst parents, they've missed an order, they've missed. Nah, it's like, wow, yeah, another one. And that's like you can't undo that. And what worries me
No,
about this is that our elected officials, because what they do is they sit and read out reports and they listen what these people have written, and they're not checking and challenging properly, is that I don't think they're realizing the long-term damage that is being caused to Barnsley's reputation. I don't think our elected officials, our lead members across children's services, I don't think they realize how bad this is affecting our reputation as a town. Because all we're going to get called is we're just going to get told top show. That's
yeah, yeah.
all we're seen as a town is, oh, well, there's a square mile that looks great, but everything else is falling apart at seams. Because
Mm.
how I look at it, I just look at it really simple. If you don't treat your most vulnerable right, if you look at the key issues that Barnsley have got right now, it's their most vulnerable. They're not
Yeah.
taking, they're not being treated right.
Oh,
And
I mean, you can walk around. You can wait. You can walk around. You walk around our towns and villages. Certainly, ones that are the further on the outskirts, Grimy, Shafton, wherever you want to have a walk around. You know what I mean? And everybody will say they're run down, absolutely run down. You know what I mean? The people
I,
there are run
I
down.
honestly,
But then you walk in, and you're driving towards the Alhambra now, and you've got this big uh, brown iceberg kind of staring out at you, glassworks. You know what I mean? Your park up looks all wonderful and fancy, but then as you walk around the town centre, it's dead. There's hardly anybody there. You know what I mean? Shops are shutting left, right, and centre. They can't afford to pay for the rent. What's gone off? You know what I mean? What's happening? It's dead until they put an event on like these music festivals, and then it's packed. You know what I mean? It's absolutely ram-packed, and they get somebody kind of shining a big kind of camera from the top and taking all these like shots and everything. You know
No,
what I mean?
I
All
get
these people that's been imported in for the weekend. Are you with me?
yeah.
In from Sheffield, and let's make another Sheffield tram lines. But you walk around on a normal Monday to Friday, it's dead, absolutely dead. Well, apart from the community of all the guys and that were obviously drinking and doing spice and stuff in the middle of up there where banks used to be and robbing mobile phones. That
Or
segment
armies.
they've got busy. There's more of
Uh,
them. You know what I mean? That
where
community's
me and
growing.
you go during day, that up
Yeah,
there, yeah.
yeah, that community's growing. You know what I mean? But even on that, where you know what I mean? We're back to social don't care. You know what I mean? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not bothered.
Well, I
Not
remember
bothered.
a time, James. I remember a time when the educational outcomes of children were failing, if they were not where they needed to be, people lost their jobs. People lost their jobs. It's not me calling
Yeah,
for people to lose their jobs. That's none of my business, not to do with me. But what the local authority, the elected members did, and what people in positions of real directorships and stuff, and even local ed teachers have come together and said, We've lost faith. We've lost faith in your director of education." That's why it would be. And now it just feels like that. I don't know. We've had an executive director for children's services coming up to 3 years, and I just don't see that footprint. I don't see that footprint on education. There's been a lot of money spent in social care, sort of dealing with lack children, looked after children, which is absolutely imperative. But, you know, I'm seeing education outcomes just absolutely flying down. You're seeing youth justice issues and huge amounts of numbers of send kids in there. That's only going to
yeah.
grow. You've
Oh, yeah.
posted an article just literally today, about 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, and it were talking about families of parents of children with disabilities are getting into more and more debt, and yet,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, and we're talking about the fact that our local authority supposedly the place of possibilities for everybody, right? And a possibility is not just a job so it looks good, or so it's not just a headline for national government.
Man, you're not even getting them, so
Yeah, no, but a place of possibilities is someone their distance travel on their possibilities journey might be really small but very significant. And that's what's forgotten here is that it's all stars in the sky place of
yeah, yeah,
possibilities.
yeah, yeah,
For me, place of possibilities is if people move on their journey at their time and their distance. And what we're
yeah,
doing is we're forgetting that. We're losing sight of that. We're losing sight about what a possibility is for someone with a disability. And now it might not be as fantastic as someone, I don't know, having a record on iTunes or Barnsley Youth Choir, which are all good things, but distance traveled doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worth it. And
yeah.
that's what kills me. It kills me.
I tell you what gets me. I think I saw an article. I don't know if it was the Chronicle, but the leader of the government's been praising Barnsley for its innovative work about getting people back into work and this, that, and the other. Let's be honest. Let's be absolutely honest. Yeah, I'm an oil. I'm Oiland. My family's been Oiland. You know, I mean, born and bred. Yeah. When they put all that kind of all the maps into place when they kind of started looking at building all these industrial units and that across the old pits down at Oiland. You know what I mean? The land you can't build on, by the way, but
Yeah.
they've gone and built on it. And then decided to stick up 20 million roundabouts. You know what I mean? And then every popped up. You know what I mean? So we've got our council going, yeah, we're creating employment opportunities. Are you with me? We've got more jobs being generated. We've got more of these industrial units being built. We've got more jobs being generated. What they're not telling is, yes, these jobs are being generated, yeah, but then they're outsourced to recruitment companies who are then recruiting from Sheffield and Rotherham and Doncaster, yeah. And to be honest, strike me down dead, and if you want to kind of, but the majority is ethnic minorities, that have been brought in. They're importing the workforces in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you've got this level at the bottom of all them people who've always been down there on the council states like Common, down in wherever, down in Jump or down wherever on that council estate, and they've been born and bred and they've lived there all their lives, yeah, getting more and more forgotten. More and more forgotten. No opportunity for them, what them lads. So where do them lads go and do? You know what I mean? They want to go and earn a living. They might be sent children, they might be whatever, and they've been kicked out of school because they've been suspended and excluded. What do them lads go and do? You know what I mean? I know what them lads go and do, and you know what them lads go and do. They start earning their own living and earn it in the wrong kind of way. And then we're
Yeah.
surprised that we're seeing this rise in youth violence. We're surprised we're seeing this rise in potential organised crime and county lines. County lines, by the way, totally denied it was happening. Totally denied it were happening in probably about 7, 8 years ago. Never, not happening. No drug dealing gangs in Sheffield and Barnsley. Not happening. All the services knew exactly that was what was happening, and that's why we were seeing an increase in child exploitation. But let's just keep importing this workforce in,
Yeah.
creating more jobs, jobs gone. You know what I mean? Create more jobs, jobs gone. Create more jobs, jobs gone. And all the time, it's the same demographic of people who are being forgotten, being looked after. Schools looking down the nose at them. You know what I mean? Look, oh, look where you come from. We know what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's that kind of attitude. It's that
Yeah.
kind of attitude. You know what I mean? But it's
And
kind
I
of,
think I think it's
and then we
one
clap
of
and cheer that we're doing a good job.
one of the central issues that just drives a community, drives any community is owning your own home and
Yeah,
being able to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
afford your own
yeah.
home, and we're just not building affordable
Oh, mate. Yeah, and you try and
affordable
do right to
housing.
buy at the moment as well. You try and do right to buy at the moment and
Yeah.
see how you get on.
Funny, last year I was considering it, and it's just so difficult. And the problem is that, like, if you can, I used to have a former teacher, and it's a quote off Far and Away, and he said, "Land is a man's very own soul." And it's true. If you've just got a pocket of land, just not just man and woman, obviously, and it's just a pocket of land, something that's yours, something that you can take care of, and it motivates you. But what we've got is we've just got houses going up that the work that's being created is not the work that allows people to afford the houses that are being created.
Mm.
And that's just a poor economy. That's not an healthy economy. And you can't even buy, you can't buy an house down Off Lane in Woolwell for, a decent one's
Yeah,
110,
yeah, yeah,
120 grand. And that's
yeah.
a very difficult mortgage to afford when you're just working in a factory. That's not so. When I look at all of this and just coming back to Send as well, and coming back to all that, is that, you know, I I don't on we the people are poor in Barnsley. There's a poorness in Barnsley. There's plenty of money in Barnsley on outskirts and in and around different areas. But fundamentally we still want, I think we're the 37th or 38th most deprived area in the country. We're still poor. We still have a lot of poverty. And it's just probably hid a little bit better now, but you haven't got to go far. And the thing is they're the children. A lot of those children are in that send children are in those families. And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
cycle, this cycle just keeps happening and happening and happening. And I've never seen it as bad. And one of the key things for me is I just don't see the love in the services. I don't
No.
see the care. Like, when you come back to people running local authority services and the education services and the EHCP team, and that's not I'm not talking about individual, I'm talking about as a collective culture,
Yeah,
overfunded, right? Under accountable, made accountable, and just basically transactional in the way that they're dealing with things. That role, that role is now seen more as an admin role by the individuals in it than it is anywhere near what it was set out to be. They should be the biggest voice and the biggest advocates for disabled
yeah,
children in the borough. They should be saying, "That's your ear. Let me get your passport. Mum and dad co-production, come in here. Come in here. Let's get stuff pinned down on here and let's make them give your child good outcomes. Give a good." That's what it was supposed to be. Instead, I'll tell you what it is, and someone came up with this term and it's absolutely right. All we do in Barnsley is we have co-reduction meetings.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
fair. Yeah,
We go
yeah,
into
yeah,
meetings and they present as co-production, but actually the incentive of the professionals in the room is to reduce
yeah.
service
Absolutely.
tier. So it's
Yeah,
the guys, it's suggested, and that no better example. I said it in that meeting yesterday with that individual council. I said, this is pretending pretending to be a co-production. You'll come in, you'll be involved. I said, what it is, if you scratch below the surface, is it's a co-reduction meeting. You're
yeah,
trying to tell me that I've been part of something that was an option. You take
yeah,
it
yeah,
away.
yeah,
You get my opinion and stuff, and so the paper trail is there, and you know before you even come to me that this ain't got a cat in hell's chance of going through a panel.
yeah,
So them meeting with me is just a precursor for the co-reduction.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's,
Yeah,
I would say to parents
and
now, I would say,
that's the shameful thing as well. When you look at these groups who are supposedly involved in co-production in Barnsley or supposedly doing consultation, they're rubber stamping decisions to reduce funding, reduce well, increase waiting times. I was about to say reduce waiting times. They're rubber stamping all this,
"Mhm,
absolutely rubber stamping it because it's badged up in such a way saying, "I'll tell you what we're going to do. I've got a wonderful idea. Yeah, I'm going to give you 2 extra days a week. Yeah, where you can spend with your little Johnny. You know what I mean?
yeah,
All that time, and we're going to give you all this wonderful raft of services and all these beautiful, wonderful presents, and there'll be a pinata and everything for you to hit. Are you with me? And you can go out and you can go and do, oh, yeah, I want that. I really, really want that. You know what I mean? They're not telling you that you've got to go out and buy the pinata. You know what I mean? You've got to go and pick it up from wherever you've got to run around like absolute idiots to kind of do this. You know what I mean? And then if you want actually help to get these referrals and actually put into that system or get yourself in that pipeline, we'll have nobody there to be able to do that. Or not one department will actually know who's they're supposed to refer to across, and you know what I mean. We'll cut all that out, so we'll make it as muddy as possible. So when you go to an EHA worker and go, "Oh, I want to go to short breaks," and they go, "Well, you've got to have a referral to Children's Disability Team," and then all of a sudden you don't need to have a referral, or oh, I could do a Compass B, you know what I mean, a bit of, you know what I mean, I'm feeling really low, my child's feeling low, they need a bit of an intervention, mental health. I'll go to Compass B. Oh, well, yeah, you can't do that. We can't refer there, and then you
yeah,
find out it's self referral anyway. You know what I mean? It's absolute smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors at its very, very best. It's misdirection. Um, well, it's misappropriation as well. Where they're spending the money? Where's the money going? We've got a huge black hole in this. Where's it going?
don't know. What's happening with safety valve? It's just falling off edge of earth. There's nobody
Where's it
talking about
going? But then we've got the nerve for our elected officials and to sit there and our cabinet members to sit there and go, yeah, we're doing a brilliant job, doing a brilliant job, us.
honestly, all it is it's just one big hoodwink. And what terrifies me is that people are buying it.
Yeah,
People are actually buying it. And the litmus test, James, will be what Ofsted do and CQC, right? So when they come in, if they buy this, if they drink the Kool-Aid that is this in our town, then it is time to give up. It is time to give up because not as in give up, but to give up believing in, for instance, parent voice in a structured way. You're probably just going straight to campaigning then. That's all it is. It's just pure campaigning. Because if Ofsted turned around and said, 4 years ago, you you were told that you didn't do any strategic parental voice, and we've come back 4 years and you've still not done it, but there's some green shoots, so well, you're all right. If they do that, if they ignore the fact that there were a parent carer forum in place that was supposed to help with all these decisions and be part of it and feedback to families about safety valve, about how that HNPCA grant was spent on all the funding, on all the decisions that have been made 3 day a week offer. Yeah, all the things, short breaks changing, funding, all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's what Ofsted told Barnsley Council they needed to do. They had a forum in place, and they had a full-time member of staff who were Barnsley Council member of staff with us. And what they did then is they took false complaints from liars. They were
yeah,
liars, right? Parents who were lying. They took false complaints, they processed them to get rid of the forum, and basically they've spent the last 2 years dilly-dallying, and not replacing it, but having something that looks like they're doing something. And when they'll have the audacity to turn around and say it's not a safe environment in Barnsley. Well,
yeah, yeah,
I'll tell you what creates an unsafe environment in Barnsley. One of the key people who's involved with the consortium now, about 3 weeks ago, I found out that said person sets up false accounts, social media accounts, and set one up while I was posting as chair positive stuff and giving me online abuse. Absolute
yeah,
vile online abuse. That person now will set up them fake accounts, which I've got the record of, and the with the right people is a key member at Consortium.
yeah.
That's the caliber of what we're dealing with.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's scratching the surface. So from my point of view with all of this is where does it end? Where does it end? Where at what point? How is it that I've got an email in my possession, James, where the education is contacting a send parent who's absolutely going around doing whatever she wants, whenever she wants, however she wants, apologizing to her for not updating the local offer that we've gone as the parent care forum and stating that they've registered the complaints against us. By the way, I've got an email from the complaints department head of service saying no complaints have been received. We
Yeah, yeah,
can't take
yeah,
any complaints about you.
yeah. And to be clear as well, let's just make sure so nobody wants to kind of put a letter together. You know, what I mean, that is a bit under investigation as now, as we speak.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
led to believe, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you know what? If people want to send a letter, they want to do things. We've got to a point now where, I can't. I'll just say, look, this is. I'm quoting. I could honestly, I could put it's on that phone now, and it's on my day. I could put that email up now, and I could go like that, and you could all read it. So that's from a
oh
specific
yeah,
person,
yeah,
and that person's PA is involved with it as well at BNBC.
mm,
And
yeah.
and basically what it's saying is we've taken complaints and the legally can't take complaints. Do you realize how serious it is that local senior and executive leadership and management at the council have broke from the local government ombudsman compliance process? They've ripped it up, in my opinion, because what they've done is they've turned around and said, and this is what I got letter for. I've had letters for this. I've had people threatening me from council about this. Is there's a complaint system that they've got to follow, right? That's the only thing they can follow, whether it's social care or corporate, it's one process. You can't take complaints about another organization, and you can't take confidential complaints. But yet, and at no point has anybody told me that they were safeguarding, but they are saying in communication with parents it's safeguarding.
No, it's funny on that, and I'm not going to go into too much on it because, again, I know this is under investigation, but it's funny how they've come after you quoting safeguarding. And I know you were in a meeting yesterday about this, and you saw with your very eyes what some of the professionals are doing within our borough. Um, and it's not even being mentioned. You know what I mean? Absolutely not even being mentioned, not even being discussed. You know what I mean? Fundamental safeguarding breaches. You know what I mean? And everyone's just kind of, yeah, you know what I mean?
But
And
it's
that's the
open.
general attitude. Yeah, general attitude is,
But
yeah,
I tell you what I've seen, James. I've seen because in recent weeks I've felt a little bit better with my physical health, so I've dipped in and I've done a little bit of work with some parents and stuff. And you know what I've seen, and with stuff that I've read and meet a couple of meetings I've been in and what have you, is I'm seeing also communication I'm receiving. I'm seeing health in social care, but certainly health, and to some extent social care staff, particularly social workers, absolutely,
Extended Child Protection Unit. Yeah,
yeah,
look, let's get the
sick,
title right. Yeah.
yeah, the sick, sick to the back teeth of education, sick to the back teeth of witnessing education services and the schools doing basically what they want, and nobody challenging them. When the sea change for me in our borough, which terrifies me, is this: you never ever ever question social care. Okay, never.
Mm,
Social care were top trumps. Yeah, they were the big dogs. Okay,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
yeah, whether you agree with it or
Well,
not, they were the
it's the
big.
tie to it's the tie to the criminal world, isn't it? With social care.
Yeah, but the thing is that what they were is in local authorities and in organisations, but particularly local authorities, social care was seen as the people that made the decisions, the final decisions, right?
Yeah.
And education had to go to them. What I see in Barnsley, and I see this in Barnsley, is I see where SEND kids are concerned, education wagging the tail of the dog that is social care. I see education overruling. I see social care and health professionals, bearing in mind health professionals are CAMs looking at
Yeah.
children
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
serious mental health problems,
Yeah. Yeah.
potentially life-threatening stuff, etc. Right? And I'm seeing education not listening to them. I'm seeing it that for some reason they've made the EHCP team and inclusion services, they're the ones that rule the roost, and that's unprecedented, and
The
it's
EH. Yeah.
scarily unhealthy.
Well, I'll probably even go a bit further than that, mate. I think we've got a problem with the EHC team. I think I've said this before. I think that, like I say, I think we've got it going around. But you've got to bear in mind that EHCP team, um, they're the gateway to funding. They're the gateway. You know what I mean? They're the ones who release the extra funding for schools to be able to go out and do the work what they need. You know what I mean? They're the ones who are setting the criteria and telling schools when they can't refer. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? You need to have a diagnosis. You need to have this. You need to do this. You need to do that. Yeah. They are the gateway.
I'm
Um,
with you there. Sorry, yeah.
and at the moment, they're looking at ways to prevent support. Actively looking, not how can we, what do we need to do to support these children? Yeah, what do we need to do to make sure that this child's needs being met? They're doing absolutely everything, can strike me down dead, and they can say that it's down to the legal tests and whatever. It's not. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a very simple legal test when it comes to an EHCP. You know what I mean? Must have or have suspected special educational needs to kick that process off. Very, very simple. You know what I mean? They're blocking that support, they're blocking that network, they're blocking that access to be able to get into different services and do whatever. You know what I mean? Schools are then being told not to recognise special educational needs. They are, you know what I mean? You know, I don't know what training they're getting. You know what I mean? But it's certainly not the training what I kind of got over the years. They're being told not to recognise it. You've got Senkos who haven't got a clue about how to put in interventions. Yeah. How to put in meaningful interventions. Yeah. How to even, you've got teachers who, oh yeah, when you get to that review point, we've got emails ourselves and we've seen it and time again. Oh yeah, I thought little Johnny was struggling.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? When it gets to the crunch point and you get to that point where we've got like we are now and you're challenging, you know what I mean? You're checking and challenging, you're sat in front, you've gone through all this for, yeah, I thought little Johnny was struggling. You know what I mean? I wonder why he couldn't write properly. Oh, I've seen him. You know what I mean? He can't even hold a pen properly. You know what I mean? So you've noticed that, but you've done nothing about it. Yeah, and then we've got like for instance, where you were yesterday, professionals all nodding and agreeing and going, "Yeah, there's something seriously wrong here." Not one referral, not one safeguarding referral out of all of them. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, there's something seriously. We agree, there's something seriously wrong here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I reckon there's an issue. I reckon there's a problem. Yeah, and nothing's done. Absolutely nothing's done. We've got infighting in between teams, teams feeling they're not being heard. We've got infighting between parents and schools. You know what I
Mm.
mean? You've got infighting between service leaders, kind of questioning what's going on, where it's going. You've got a cabinet then what's totally oblivious and thinks we're doing an absolute amazing job.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't see it. Tribunal, early an emergency HCP, parent requesting an emergency HCP. Yeah. 3 weeks and not even heard anything back, even about it, just an initial date for the meetings.
No.
3 weeks, great emergency. I hope that
Yeah, and
it
let's
must be going on.
but
It must be going on Barnsley A&E waiting times. That's what we moved on to.
and the thing is that it's not exactly an unknown case. That is like
No,
it,
no, no. It's probably one of the
you know,
biggest. What's highlighted a lot of issues. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll drag it out a little bit longer. You know what I mean? It's
you
crackers,
you
absolutely
just
crackers.
you just
We've
kind
got
of look.
EHC teams who ring up parents and go on a Tuesday and go, "Yeah, brilliant news, brilliant. I know you've been fighting for it a long time. We're happy to give you away your tasks. You can now go and enjoy the rest of your week and have a nice weekend with you. You know what I mean, with your daughter. You know what I mean? Absolutely brilliant." Then on the following Monday, when the letter drops on post, yeah, sorry, you're not having it.
Mm.
It's gone to panel. We've changed his mind. Oh no, you actually definitely said on Tuesday. Oh no, 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 that was a mistake. You know what's going off? Post 16, 18-year-old. Imagine that 18-year-old not being at school. Just managed to get enough strength up to get yourself to walk through the door, go to college for a year, and then your TIAG worker and your adult social care worker said, "Well, we can't do anything for you now." Exact words. "Well, we can't do anything for you now." Yeah, what are you going to do? Go and sign on the universal credit? That's our amazing post 16 offer. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, I
Or
mean
you can
it's
stay where you are. You're thriving. You can stay where you are. You're thriving in that setting. I'll tell you what. No, you can come back and we'll just put your life through ringer.
it needs challenging. And that's the thing is the post 16 we've been hoodwinked again. It's been taken down. It's been and they'll say, oh, it's not a blanket policy, and they'll say all this kind of stuff. But right now, the problem that they've got is that they say that there's a 5 day offer, right? There's a 5 day offer that may not, but there's nothing on offer. There's no directory, there's no database, there's no offer. So it's saying if you go down to 3 days a week. So if I just before we go, if I just give this example, for instance, in like 18, it's better to use me rather than do all else. In 2 years' time, Billy, my lad, will be coming to end his secondary school age, and
Yeah,
more than anything in the world, he wants to be, and we want him to continue his FE college at the school that he's
yeah,
at
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
further because he's absolutely the right place. It blossomed for him. He's so so happy. But let's say, for instance, lots of things change governmentally, and they turn around and say, "Well, actually, we're bringing him back in borough, and tribunal's gone. So good luck, Jonathan. Whatever." And I say, "Oh, well, okay, I'll fight you, and it's not, I will not fight." But the point is let's say that they do that, and then they say, right, he's going to have 3 days a week at Barnsley College or a training provider that provides specifically. We've set some up, we've built a provision. Okay. And then he's going to have another 2 days a week where he goes and he does community-based activities. So he's not at that building where he's getting the educational side of things. So for Billy, it would be speech and language therapy continuing right up into his life and so on. What he's going to do is he's going to do more supported living or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
community-based stuff. Who's going to? Where is it? Right now, there are families that are facing that. There are families that have been told they can't stay at Greenacre and they've had to go to college and on a 3 day a week. And a lot of families have just accepted it. That's what they do because that's what people do. It's the call center mentality, isn't it? Is if you pick the phone up and someone says you are number 20 in the call, you lose 50% of people. I'll deal with it another time. You accept it. And it's only idiots like us who stay on all afternoon waiting and then still keep going. But there are so many parents now who've accepted that the kids were in specialist schools. They've been moved back in borough, gone to Barnsley College 3 days a week, whatever, I don't know. And there's 2 days a week they just sat at home on the sofa because there's no offer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they haven't got the strength. Sometimes they ain't even got the knowledge or understanding that it's wrong. If someone with a lanyard tells a lot of people, if someone with a lanyard comes up to, no, that's been removed now, that the government's changed that. A lot of people in Barnsley, which is a very deprived area, people accept that, James. They just say, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I don't want to cause any trouble. And they walk away. And that's what's really upsetting. And that for me, James, is one of the huge and biggest tragedies that has occurred and travesties. And if Ofsted come back in and accept that what they've done with parent voice and not allowed structured parent voice in all the groups and all the strategic boards that Ofsted told them to allow it, and it's all in the WSOA. If they let that slide, then it will be hell to pay in this town because what will happen is most people will go apathetic, and then other half or whatever
Mm,
will just say, "That's it. We've just got to protest. We've
yeah.
got to campaign. We've got to look at other things," because you can't do that.
No.
That structured parent voice has to be there that goes out there without a lanyard on, without an incentive other than to be there for parents to say, no, you don't have to accept that.
Yeah. Oh no, let's
That-
be fair though. Yeah, let's be fair though. They'll portray they have got representation in these strategic meetings. Who'll be that old guy who sat in the back asleep who kind of posts racist comments up, you know what I mean? Are you with me? He's
Yeah,
there, he's representing.
yeah. I think um I think I think it's really difficult. It's really, really difficult because you get to a point where you try and try and try and say, look, regardless of what circumstance you've been in, every parent, you try to keep thinking, come on, just see the light and all will be forgiven, all will be
Can't.
forgotten.
Yeah, they can't. They can't. I think the financial black hole is so vast. You know what I mean? They can't. They've got to keep cutting costs and keep cutting costs and keep cutting costs. You know what I mean? And all the time it's going to get worse and worse and worse. What we need really is we need a total shift and a total change. We need some explanations to what's gone off with these budgets. Someone needs to come in and tell us where this money's gone. You know what I mean? Because I can't see it. I can't see it. Do you know what I mean? What's it being spent on? I know we've done some crazy stuff in the past in Barnes with like private financing agreements in schools and you know what I mean in hospitals where it costs £700 to change a light bulb. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
yeah, we've done, but while that's going off, somebody somewhere's getting a nice stroke as being a CEO or a shareholder on one of these companies. You know what I mean? Let's you know it's there. It's in black and white. You know what I mean? You can look at some of these limited companies that have been set up on these projects. Um, Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff. Don't get it. Absolutely don't get it. I don't get how they can completely. Well, I do. They like I say, they're gambling. They're playing the law of averages. Do you know what I mean? For every one parent who's got a bit of knowledge and screams and shouts, yeah, they've managed to bin off 30, 40 of us. You know?
Yeah, it's a I wish I could get across to everybody the sheer level of magnitude of importance of the rest of this academic year, particularly in light of the fact that it's probably 95% certain that inspections come in. If that inspection comes in and they're able to get anything like the second or top grade, one thing I would just say at this moment in time, and this is just me suggesting that I've just got a feeling about this, and I think the timing of this my card which is free travel.
Oh
Uh,
God, that's brilliant. That yeah, free bus pass into town centre.
yeah, but, well, my gut says that this first and foremost is it's a way of funding footfall to the young person centre. That's one thing that they're building. Yeah, that hub they're building. So that's one thing. But my other instinct, and call me a pessimist, and I hope I'm wrong, is that we're
Yeah.
going to see dramatic cuts to home to school transport.
Oh yeah,
I
well that's on the cards. Absolutely on the card.
and I think
Just
that
touching on the youth centre, and I think we'll do a nice piece on this. But I want to do something a little bit different. We'll go on. We'll have a trip out, me and you, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to a youth centre that was built in Sheffield. Yeah,
yeah,
multi-million-pound investment. Yeah. Um, First 6 months, brilliant. Kids were loving it, going down, keeping kids off the street. Staff started going, couldn't get the volunteers to run it because they're relying heavily on volunteers in the community to do this outreach work. Investments started getting cut, empty. Yeah, now it rents out its five-a-side football pitches, AstroTurf. So I'm going to take you there, and we'll do a bit of filming. We'll do a bit of filming, and then we'll put it on. We'll bring it back, and we'll show you what Barnsley can expect. Yeah,
yeah. I'll
because
get one
it's
of
already
them.
been
I'll get
done.
one of them movement cams. I'll get one of them.
Yeah, it's already been. Honestly, mate, it's already been tried and tested. Yeah, Sheffield, Rotherham, Doncaster. Yeah, violence reduction unit, everything. So I bet most people in South Yorkshire don't even know we've got a VRU. I bet they don't know we've got a violence reduction unit. Yeah, when it comes
Mhm.
to youth crime. Yeah,
I don't
absolute
know.
waste of money. Yeah, absolute waste. And we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this. And I know, I've mentioned some names tonight, but I am going to say, right, I'm going to kind of say on, if you want to kind of send me another letter out, feel free. Do you know what I mean? Because I think we're getting at a point now where we've got too much. We've got too much ongoing. We've got too much stuff going off now. We have too much evidence of stuff going on, and I'm quite happy to have my day in court. You know what I mean? Quite happy for you to come out
Yeah,
on my door
yeah.
and kind of lift me and take me down to the police station. I'll get it all on record. You know what I mean? Because I've had enough. I'm at the end of my tether now. Absolutely end of my tether. It's just unexplainable what's going off.
Well,
Absolutely unexplainable.
I don't think I've ever. It's built up to this point, and I just, I don't, I just feel as though I can't. It's got to come. The stuff that I have, and the from my point of view about me and what's happened, and what happened with with the forum, and how it was all orchestrated, and how it's been dealt with, and the people that have been involved, and the lies that have been told. I mean, literally, people have said things about me that were they true, I would have been imprisoned,
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah,
true.
yeah.
And that's a million miles away from who I've ever been. And I've got to see that through now. But what I do know is I know that these people have not acted alone. And it's really difficult at the moment because I want to sing like a canary and I want to say what needs to be said. But there's just a part of me that holds dear, holds hope that there can be some sense found. But it's just not going to happen. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen. And it makes me sad because I think about all the hours that people have put in, and I think about all the love that's been put in. And I just want it. I want it. All I want is for parents to have a voice in services. I never really wanted it. I didn't want to out myself. That's all I wanted. And the things that have been done to me, and the things I'm seeing done to you, I'm seeing agents of darkness coming across on social media, and messages and things, people setting us up. See it all, and it's
I mean,
vile.
yeah, I know we've had conversation. I think we'll finish up on this point, but I'm going to finish on one point. Yeah. Um, I'm prepared to go all the way because I know what we're talking about and what we know and the evidence we have. It's the truth,
Yeah,
and you can't dispute. You can't throw that under the bus.
no.
You know what I mean? absolutely. You know what I mean? Gospel. We're seeing what's going off. I see what's going off. Um, some of the cases, it's you can't. It's undeniable what's happening. Undeniable. Um, and yeah, yeah. If needs be, then you know what I mean.
Even just
Bring it on.
even just a senior member of staff contacting me with messages and saying it's leading to things being unsafe. It's leading to this. It's people we're not listened to as professionals, as social workers, as CAMS
You
workers. We're not listened to.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that. I mean, this obviously I see this on a daily basis, but you in that meeting the other day, we're not going to go into too much detail about it at all. But in that meeting the other day, you saw firsthand what we're seeing and what we're being told, and it's shocking.
It
It's
were
shocking.
it were an appetite. It were an appetite, I would say, that I don't think I've ever seen in a professional meeting before in my life. And it there were a poorliness to it. You know, like when you look at
Unhealthiness.
someone,
Yeah,
yeah, like think this is poorly, this is not right. And what people don't realize is that like you go in and as an ex-professional myself, someone who worked as a professional, as a teacher and whatever, which is means naught to me. It's just what I were decent at. You train to see things because that's what you do.
mm,
Safeguard is everybody's responsibility. And then when you become a parent as well, and then you also become a parent of the same child, and you bring all them combinations together, you don't switch off. And so you sit there and you are cool and you're nice and you're amenable and you're apathetic and you're thinking and you're listening and you're trying to see things from both sides. But you are observing. And what I saw the other day just really, really made me feel uncomfortable. And I'm nobody's fool. You know, you and I, James, me and you will
yeah. I
have,
know that. I know.
you
I
know,
know.
we'll disagree regularly, um,
Yeah,
or we'll agree to disagree. Uh, I'm nobody's,
constructive debate is what we
yeah,
have.
but
Yeah.
I saw what you'd been telling me. I saw it, and it was so subtle, and that's when it's even more terrifying when it's subtle,
Mm,
when it's subtle,
yeah.
and that's it spooked me a little bit, if I'm being honest. I thought,
Yeah.
wow, you know. Um,
Yeah.
But yes, I do think all of it is just going to come to a head because no one after all the things that we've done and all the things we've said and I've sent for years before I got involved or before I knew you or before you come on scene as much as you are now in terms of this. I've sent email and email and email all saying please let's talk, please let's talk, just let's talk. Don't want
Mm.
hassle, don't want to go on social media, don't want to be doing all this. Please let's talk. No, 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 no. And then I got a legal letter saying cease and desist from contacting CEO.
And I'm going to be
Okay.
clear now as well. I'm going to be clear. Yeah, I would trade all this in. Yeah, I don't like being around people myself. I'm going to be honest. You know what I mean? I don't want to be sat here on social media. I don't want to go on TikTok. I don't want 1,000 followers. I don't want to do this and I don't want to do whatever. I would trade all of this in, yeah, for a sit down, confidential, even if it's behind closed doors meeting to
Mm.
discuss the problems that we've got on paper. Do you know what I mean? That the evidence to show people the evidence what we have for them people just to listen and actually acknowledge that there's a I'll trade all this.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I
would.
mean?
I would.
I'll
Because
take, mate.
uh,
I'll tell you now.
yeah,
I'd close the Facebook page down to. I'd do everything if I
yeah.
could sit down there, yeah, and have that conversation, that honest conversation. Yeah, I would gladly trade that if
It's a
we
really
could
good
get that
point.
little bit, that change. All I want is a change. I want to see a change. I know there's subtle changes going on here, there, and everywhere within the system. You know what I mean? I'm not here to, but let's just stop the nonsense. Let's stop the BS. You know what I mean? There's fundamental issues. Absolutely. And some of them are very, very, you know what I mean? They're worrying. They're scary.
Mm.
You know what I mean? They're very scary about what we're putting some of these families and parents through. You know what I mean?
And when and it's not stopping, so no one's stopping it and no one's moderating it. So it's like what time is it, Mr. Wolf? Everybody's
Yeah,
getting
yeah, yeah,
closer and
yeah,
closer to the wolf. And
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
wolf is or what it represents in this is up to anybody. But we're not there's no one saying that's it, that's enough. And I completely agree. there's nothing I would love more than to not have this hanging over me. I don't get any buzz from being on here, and
No.
people make this accusation that they say, "Oh, he loves his sound of his own voice," and all these people being so nasty about people. And I said, "Look, I walk away tomorrow. I would walk away tomorrow, but
I would.
I will never walk away until there is structured and governance parental violence, parental voice that is safe, secure, and it's got the right people involved. And I would always be there. I would always offer some level of agency to that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would always do that if it were wanted. But until that day comes, and until they invite you in and say, come in out of the wilderness and talk to us, and let's find a way forward so we can stop the negative press and put Barnsley on the map for the right
yeah, yeah.
reason.
For the right
I'd be
reasons.
there.
Yeah,
I'd cancel my plans. I'd be there tomorrow.
yeah.
Okay.
I
And
agree.
but it just feels. I tell you what it feels like. It feels like some American president in a film that says we do not negotiate with terrorists, as if we're like terrorists or something, as if we're bad people. And the problem is that they think we're going to quit. That's the funniest
Mm.
thing about it all is there is trepidation because we're decent. I'm a decent person. There's trepidation. There's always trepidation because you've got your things to think about. But I'm never going to stop. It's not going to stop. I'm not. You'll
Yeah,
not scare me. I've had my chest opened and my heart stopped for never 7 hours, and
yeah, no,
I'm
yeah,
not. You're not gonna scare me. And you can have half for nothing because I ain't got out.
yeah,
So from my point of view, this is my hill. This is my hill, and I will die on it. And
yeah.
and
I agree.
and it's not
Absolutely
going to
agree.
stop. And
I
people
agree.
can people can either join us or they can cast it, cast us to one side. They can, but this is an open offer to local authority and to ICB and to whoever else is. Conversations are there, and I know we can get parents. We can get parents to come and at least listen. I know
Mm.
that. I know that. So there you go.
That's there. It's
Right,
there, isn't it?
buddy.
That's the
I'm
two.
gonna
They're the two
go.
challenges that have been thrown down, mate. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and
Right.
have.
Been a good one. Been a rant. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I
I
shall see
will.
you later. Oh, go on.
Yeah. Bye, everybody, and I'll see you. I'll speak to you soon, Jimmy. It's been a pleasure,
Right.
mate.
Brilliant. All right, mate. Same as
Yeah,
usual. Goodbye,
buddy.
everyone. Have a good one. All
Ta-ra.
right.